First time here. First timers, the bathrooms are over there. I need, do we have anybody here who knows how to work these new tablets? I just got mine. It says it's loading and it's upside down and, okay, that is right. I'm trying. I am terrible with names. I'm going to get there. Y'all just hold on. I'm really, really bad with names. So I want somebody to go around and take pictures with everybody in their name tags. You know, you would think of something as fancy as this, you could look through it. Well, you can't. You got to look over it. So I've been practicing. Like, I can remember her name. Well, I'm going to set this down. I've had too much fun. You people get here too late. I don't have time to take names before it all starts. We want to welcome you to Cowboy Ministry. Thank you for coming. I didn't even ask Kathy, do you have an announcement? She's got a microphone in her hand. That's my wife. If she's got a microphone in her hand, that means she has something to say.
Good morning. All right, it's a little warm today, but we'll just hold on for a couple more weeks. We'll be on the other side of these dog days of August, and it won't be so bad, so hang in there with us. If you first time here, if you haven't filled out one of these white cards for us, we'd appreciate if you could do that and either hand it to Michelle. If you raise your hand, she'll come around and give you one to fill out. We don't send out any junk mail, so you don't have to worry about getting all kinds of stuff in your mailbox. But we would like to know who you are and if there's anything we can do for you. And just put that on that card, give it back to Michelle, or put it in the donation box back there. Speaking of the donation box back there, there are offering envelopes. If you want to put something in there, if the Lord puts it on your heart to help us out with this ministry, you can put that in an offering envelope or just stick it in the box itself. There's a box at both places. We don't preach about money, but it does take money to do God's work sometimes, but He's got plenty of it. So if you feel led to help us, we would appreciate that. Also back there are flyers. If you've got a place you can put one of these up at to keep the word out. These were some that we mailed out here a while back. And if you could check maybe your feed stores or any place like that. Yes, you have to go.
How many of you go to these state parks trail riding? Okay, get a handful of them flyers and put them on everybody's windshield.
That's called
There were 7 people up there at the state park this morning, but I was running late as usual, so I didn't stop. But, you know, that's who we're after, people who love horses, and we'll teach them to love God whether they do or not. Okay, back to you.
That's it.
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
You know, I don't know whether it's just timing or what. This is the first time in 5 or 6 weeks that I do not see TK. Huh. You what?
I see her because her girl was teething and being real fussy, so that's probably.
Okay, she must have a daughter problem. Okay. Kathy, if you could, my phone is up there somewhere. It'll be under Farm TK. For those of you who wonder how weird I am, if it just said TK, I'd never remember who she is. But all of you are listed under Farm, because that's the name of this place. Yeah, I don't think right. I understand that. If you ever get my phone and you need a vet, don't look for his name. Look under vets and you'll get all of them. Because if one's not there, you need the next one. So that's just kind of the way I think. But if you'd call TK, just check on her. Because today's kind of a special day. Because it's special, last Sunday, TK and John were both baptized after church up on the service. So John, if I could get you to come up here. It just so happens that John's mother helps me with stuff. And she's really proud of this moment anyhow. Because I'm house setting, I've been house setting over here, now we're house setting over there. I didn't find my other rope. But what this white rope represents is each knot represents someone who's been baptized through us. And we've had 4 since we've been over here. Our other rope has 38 on it since we've been over there. So you get to just tie a little simple knot anywhere you want to, but you can't tie them together though. You can't tie the 2 ends together. Just take one end. Oh my goodness. I'm learning as we do this, because normally I present them with a Bible first, and then they can't hold the Bible and tie the knot. So we're getting, that's your knot. That's your knot. Woohoo! Maybe this knot don't represent anything as far as salvation, because what it was about is when your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life. That's what we're talking about. But it helps us see just that this ministry is doing something for the kingdom. And that's what we're about. I was talking to earlier this morning. It's about the kingdom. So with this comes a little promise book with your name on it. We don't give out Bibles because most people won't read them. But this promise book, when you open it up, it's full of topics. And welcome to God's family. And it's promises and all these different topics. Acceptance, assurance, children, courage. Children and courage go together. And you look that up, and it's like a topical. It'll give you the Bible verses that goes with that. Along with this, he gets a certified certificate of baptism, and a card, and a Cowboy up sticker to go in your windshield. Congratulations, buddy. Alright. We get to do TK next week, I guess. But we want to, that's what part of this ministry is about. We want to teach a better understanding of horses, people, and God. And when we get the correct understanding, that's where it leads to, is baptism, salvation. So, did we decide, Joyce, who's talking? No, but we don't have a microphone, do we? We have a cordless. If you'll take that, you'll take that. If I can get you to pull that back to there. Okay, you go get the horse then. We're going to put this panel back up real quick. I just wanted enough room everybody could see. Just put it about there and pin up. Let's let me get on the inside before you lock me out. There you go. Tell us about this horse.
Okay, this is a 7-year-old quarter horse mare. We've had her a short time. Her main problem was separation from the other horse, and also when you're walking her, her nose is just about on the ground.
That's when you're riding her.
Yes.
When you're trail riding, she sticks her nose on the ground. Some horses do that. They're smelling the area. However, if I don't want them to do that, we got to be able to pick their head back up. One of the most important things you can ever learn about horses is about how do you tell a horse, yes, that's what I want, and no, that's not what I want. So we hear the horse at the trailer is going to have more anxiety than this one. Do you want to do anything to show us what you can do? You can't do anything, okay. Kathy, would you pray as we get started?
Sure. Lord God, thank you so much for this day, Lord. We thank you for the way you take care of us. We thank you for the blessings that you've given us, Lord. Lord, I thank you for bringing each and every one here, Lord, and I just pray that you'll open our hearts, our minds, and our souls, Lord, to receive the message that you have set apart for each one of us, Lord. Be with Skipper as he brings the message. Be with Skipper as he works with his horse, Lord, and works with the owners. And I pray, Lord, that you will just use these illustrations to help drive home how much you love us and what you expect out of us. It is in Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen.
I'm not so sure we don't need to swap horses. What, is this one yours? Okay. Men always thinks their wife horse needs help, but theirs don't. It's just natural. I'm just going to check it out. In fact, I wasn't even sure we had a horse coming. That's why I went and got a spare. So, one of the things that separation is that chatter going on in the back of your mind. Do you have any of that? How many of you've got chatter that goes on in the back of your mind? And that's the same way with these horses. When they get separated, they're thinking, oh my goodness, it'll never come back again. You know, this one is more interested in smelling the ground. You know, I do not relate to this horse. Or maybe I do, because my nose don't work. But this horse seems to want to use its nose a lot. It was just looking for the bathroom, that's what it was doing. But when we start understanding that chatter in the back of our mind, we can start relating to what are horses really going through. You know, I don't quite understand people who have the empty nest syndrome. You know, when your children go off. I mean, I told my children from the get-go, my job is to train you to be okay to go off. You know, you're not meant to stay with me. You're meant... Actually, when a baby is born, this isn't even part of the sermon today. When a baby's born, that was in my space. Space is huge in the animal world. And I'm just telling her that's my space. That's how one horse gains respect over another, is they control space. Thank you. But when a baby's born, they are 100% dependent on you. Yep, you got to feed them and you got to wipe them. They're 100% dependent on you. And as parents, it's our job to gradually change that year after year after year, so that at age 18, they are zero dependent on you. That's what we're looking for. Does it happen all the time? No. But that's what we should be looking for and striving for in teaching our children, to be dependent upon themselves. Well, so many times with horses, it's kind of the same way. We hinder their ability to be dependent. Because, I mean, this is like really nice. But most horses that I get on Sunday, they act like that one sounds. And people come in here hoping them to be good, and they're hindering their learning. How many of you, I'm going to set you up a little bit. How many of you want your children to go through some pain in life? One over there. I didn't mean you're mad at them. But normally what happens is we don't want our children to suffer any pain, so we work in between them so they don't have to. But then the next question is, didn't we learn when there was pain involved? In fact, I tell all the time, Kathy learns by research, I learn by pain, and I don't learn very fast. I've had 38 broke bones, I've got an artificial knee, and I'm beginning to learn faster now. Of course, don't they say with age comes wisdom? I'm going to be 60 Wednesday. Woo! I'm looking forward to it. I get to eat on that cheap meal thing sometimes. I got so mad whenever I went to Sonny's. No, it wasn't Sonny's. It was the Clock. They got the senior menu if you're over 55. I said, all right. Well, the senior menu was 70 cents cheaper for breakfast. You get 2 eggs, 2 pancakes, 2 pieces of bacon, and 2 sausage. It's the touchdown breakfast. I love it. So if you're a senior, you get it 70 cents cheaper, but they only give you 1 of each thing. Like, what kind of break is that? I guess when you get older, you're not supposed to eat as much. You break it down into categories, you're actually spending more for it. You know, as usual, I've never seen this horse. Do you have a particular bridle you ride with?
Ring snaffle is what we've been riding with.
A ring snaffle? Do you have it with you?
Yes.
If you want to get it, I'll ride it with what you ride with, because it's an issue with where it carries its head. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things, ways that you can help with a buddy-soured horse. If you're trail riding and you got two horses that, you know, when you separate them, they just go, Vicky's taught me a new word, it's bonkers. But have you seen them? If you ever separate them, they go bonkers. One of the things you can do if you trail ride quite a bit is separate and come back. Separate and come back. Because for a horse to get nervous, it's energy, and most horses are really lazy. And then pretty soon they realize, well, you're going to come right back. And I don't know. The only difference in mine is a D-ring snaffle instead of an O-ring. It's the only difference. But when you're riding and your horses they don't want to separate. Separate, come back. Just go around a tree and come back. Go around a bush and come back. Let that other horse be nervous. Let your horse be nervous. Now, sometimes the horse that you're leaving on will go bonkers. Sometimes the horse you left will go bonkers. If I told a story the other day. I was riding a young 3-year-old. She just green broke, and we were working cows, and they left me to guard the gate. And she was going bonkers, and she was determined she was going to go. And I was deadly holding her until she flipped over backwards and broke my ribs. Today, I would never hold her back. I would be putting her to work. I would be moving her hips, moving her ribs, moving something, because horse training is not a lot of don'ts. How many of you get caught up with your horse? Don't do that. Don't do this. That's most of our training, is don'ts. Well, that's not training, that's discipline. You know, we train with do's. Do back up. Do move your hips. Do side pass. What we found with a lot of people who have trouble with these type of horses, they really don't know how to use their legs yet. And if you don't know how to use your legs, there's only a certain amount of the horse's body you can control. You know, what's in your hand, pretty much, if you don't know how to use your legs. But as we learn to use our legs, we can start moving our hips over. The purpose for moving hips, my back legs, just pretend like I'm a horse. My back legs is like this. I can buck, I can kick, I can rear up. But when we learn to disengage a horse's hips, what we're talking about is get them to yield their hips and cross their back legs. Now it puts them off balance. Now they cannot rear up. They cannot buck very good. You know, it's just, in fact, anytime you're getting into trouble, I went last Saturday to TK's house, and her horse, she literally cannot leave the barn by herself. And I told her to show me. She did, and I made her get off. Because this horse was taking her under the barn. He would turn his head and just keep right on going under the barn. And that's a problem that a lot of people have that don't use their legs. So, what the exercise that I did with her horse was I got on the fence. Somebody else rode my saddle last. It was TK. I got on the fence and did a lot of what you might call it a rollback. It wasn't much of a rollback, but it was a lot of turn back and forth. Her horse is gaited and he wanted to go really fast. So I would go this way and turn and go that way, turn and go this way, turn and go that way until it slowed down and was responding correctly. Because that's a good way of training. If you've got a horse that wants to go back to the barn, back to the trailer, you pull its head and it just keeps walking. That's the most dangerous thing I can ride. I mean, to me, that's worse than rearing up for me. I would never get in a car I couldn't steer. I mean, that's what we do sometimes. We get on these horses that we can't steer. So it's all about what they want is more important than what we want. How many times is God saying that about us? What we want is more important than what God wants. It happens all the time, people. All the time. Normally, as soon as I open my mouth. You know, I've gotten a lot better. I think Kathy would agree with me. Used to, she would say, I'm going to ask you a question, but don't answer it right now. Think about it. Because she knew that my first answer would not be a godly answer. Hello, sir. Well, I'm glad you're a gentle horse. Why'd you bring this thing to me? Why do we have this horse here today? Oh, it holds its head low when you walk. I'm glad. I hope we get to fix something. But if you think about it, you may change the way you're going to say it, or you may change the way you think. Now, what I'm going to do is just try to get this little horse going around the circle, because I'm going to put it on a real loose rein, because one of their issues is it wants to hold its head down lower than what they want. It goes back to the statement I made in the beginning. How do we tell a horse, yes, that's what I want? How do we tell a horse, no, that's not what I want? That's kind of like right where I want its head myself. Now, if its head was to get lower, I'm not steering, I'm just riding. I'm kind of like one of them space monkeys. I'm just here for the ride right now. Now, if it gets lower than what I want, I just bump it right back up. Simple as that. Do I? Well, bump it up before she goes lower. Now, she just said she will go lower. My answer is, well, bump it up before it goes lower. If it already gets low, bump it back up anyhow. You know, you got to be able to say, no, I don't want that. And you just pick it back up. I'm going to tell you what, it's a whole lot easier to get the horse to pick his head up than it is to pick up your reins and get him to lower. You know, that's a whole nother deal. You know, I'm just going to check her a little bit here. Okay, what I was checking is she said she's got really good brakes, but what she didn't do was bend the pole. I was checking to see if she did collection. No, she's got good brakes, but she don't collect. Do you care? I don't care if you don't care. You know, if you're going to enter a reining, a cutting, or some high-performance competition, you got to have a horse that will collect, bend at the pole. When their chin comes under, their back raises up, their stride gets shorter, and they can pivot, turn, and stop better and faster. But if you don't care, I don't care.
If you want breaks, you don't want collection.
Well, my wife hates it when I collect them horses up, because I can pull them back and they keep going. Well, then when she pulls back, they keep going. Now, all I did was just bump one side and then bump the other to get her to slow back down. Now, really, these O-ring, any type of bit without a shank is not meant to pull with both hands. They're meant to work one hand at a time. So if it got low, what I would do is just, we call it seesaw. You bump left, right, left. Just alternate your bumps to get them to pick your head back up. Would you classify her as a couch potato? A little lazy, okay. And what type of She needs a microphone.
Trail riding.
Trail riding. And in the trail riding, you just get on a trail and ride. You don't do much turning.
We do some tree work.
Do some tree work? Okay. I had to laugh while Larry and Vicki were gone. I've got it on my phone if any of you want to look at it. I went to the state park right down there by the road. And it's got the ruts where the trucks and everything's been driving. And I took a picture over its ears and I said, this is trail riding. And no, it wasn't. It was right out there. That's where that picture was taken. And then if you look off to the right, there's this high mound of dirt with a lot of high weeds. And I took a picture going up that hill with no path, and I said, this is skipper riding. We make our own path. Because when they just ride on a trail, everything's thought out for them. You know, whenever it wants to lower its head or stop, I'm just bumping it back up. Tighten that up one more notch. I'm not on that side. I recommend you get off to do this if you're not a trainer. Don't do as I do, do as I say. I hated that when my mom told me that. It would help if you would get this mare to when you picked up on that rein, she'd give you the nose. Do you do any of that? Okay, here's what a lot of people make the mistake. I shared with her earlier, there's so much horse training on TV. You know, you come watch me every week, and you know, I need to say this every so often. I've never seen this horse before, and I've only got it for about an hour and 15 minutes today. So I'm going to work on this horse's problem that they brought it for. Now, if it was at my house on training, we probably wouldn't even address this problem. We would build a foundation. You know, the first thing we would do is be able to flex it softly. And what I'm talking about is a lot of people start off with too much pressure and then they just pull. If you're pulling your horse around, and I can tell this horse, to me, this horse is heavy, lazy. You just pull it around. You know, when I stand here, it wants me to pull it around. Well, if you want them to get softer, the trick to it is you pick up and you go bump, 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 bump. Why? Because horses learn by what happens next. If you have trouble catching your horse, they don't like what happens next. Now I guarantee you, you put a halter on them and then feed them every day, and they'll go stick their head in that halter because they like what happens next. If I bump, bump, it's going to start giving to me because it don't like bump, bump. But, you know, I don't want to bump, bump. When you start bringing me your nose, I'll quit bump, bumping. He said, oh, if I just keep it there. But this is really big. See, there's no, I'm getting nothing. Nothing. It's thinking like, are you going to make me? Yeah, I'm going to make you. One of the, I mean, I'm sure there's not a whole lot that scares this horse. This is a pretty nice laid-back horse. Just, you know, I'm going to look for a little more feel. You know, I kind of, I'm waiting for Vicki to ride her horse because I rode it 3 days last week. I added some power steering fluid.
Did you supercharge it too?
You know, the only way to get these horses lighter is start light and then say, hey, come on here. You got to encourage them. When I pick this up, you know, I expect you to come to me, not wait for me to pull you. So if it was a little bit, see how it waits for me to pull it? I don't care if it, you know, they said its teeth was bad, but they've had it done. All of this is just, I don't know, quit pulling on my mouth. Well, the only way I'm going to quit pulling on your mouth is when you start giving to it. Once you get them lighter in the face, when they start to drop their head down, you can just do that and bring it right back up. One of the things that I've talked about in horse training, we've watched just enough on TV that we become a little bit of a trainer. And that's good, people. I ain't knocking it. But what happens is we give up too quick. And to me, the only difference in how good of a trainer you are is how quick you accomplish it. When I went to a Chris Cox clinic, he told everybody in the clinic, he says, what I just did in 5 minutes is going to take you 2 weeks. Because we don't have the feel that a professional trainer has. What is feel? Feel is knowing when to pull, how much to pull, and when to release. But our timing is bad, and we pull at the wrong time with the wrong amount of pressure, and we release it the wrong time. So, you know, we started off working about this horse wanting to carry its head too low, but what I'm more interested in is making it softer in the mouth. You know, we're not even going to talk about flexion because they don't care. You know, but what we are going to talk about is, hey, when I ask you to turn, let's kind of get a little power steering fluid in here. And the way you don't get it by pulling harder, you get it by bumping. And if I had some spurs, I could help that a little. a good exercise for you to do, and you know, it's become my most favorite exercise. It's boring to watch, but it's these little figure eights. When you come, bump, bump. I've got an inside leg and inside hand. Change hands, change legs. Bump, 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 bump. What this will do is me bumping with my legs. It's not going to do much today, but you want them where when you squeeze that leg, they'll actually get that circle bigger. She is so dead-sided, she's not going to move it just this little bit. But it's when you're working your trees, look up and work with a purpose. You know, if you want to start getting your horse to neck rein better, drive to the fence and hit that way. Use both hands. Use one to get its nose, and then one to push its shoulder. That way. See? Argument, argument, argument. Do you ride spurs on her? Yeah. I didn't hear that.
He said yes.
I'm always making comments about telephone companies. Riding without spurs is like having Nextel. Sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. I laughed when I got on TK's horse last week. I mean, it's running sideways into the barn. And I already had Shadow saddled. I was going on a trail ride with her, but I wanted her to go off by herself first. And I told TK, of course, I wasn't going to ride her saddle. So I said, let me take the saddle off, put on your horse real quick. And she said, he's never had spurs before. I said, good. We're really got into a different topic today because this horse, other than it whinnied a couple of times, it has shown no signs of buddy side. Okay, what happens when you squeeze and it don't go? You start spanking. If you squeeze more, they're going to ball up in a ball more. I got a message this week. This woman said that she had a 4-year-old that she's done all the groundwork, they've been on it, but they cannot make it go forward. Would I help? Well, what happens is we've done the groundwork and we've got these horses doing everything. They're gentle and they're kind. We get on their back and I'm going to kind of wait for her ears just a minute. But we get on their back, and I'm talking about a 2-year-old, 3-year-old who's never been rode before. The first thing we do to make them go is we squeeze. Let's watch your ears. No, she's not going to do it. A horse that's never had... Wow. Okay. You ain't got no power steering at all. Normally, a horse that don't understand squeezing Their ears will go back, and then they know nothing to do but back up or rear up. So these horses that don't know about legs, you start back there and drive them forward. Then you introduce legs a little bit later. I'll introduce legs in a turn. That's what I'm going to start doing. You know, but we got to think back to how are we buddy soured with God? Whew. Now, okay, for some of you who's never been here, you may not know what I'm doing. I'm going to get over here and stop where you can watch. You do not ride without spurs the same way you ride with spurs. I mean, if you don't ride with spurs and you go buy a pair, you don't just go kang, 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 kang. That's not how you use them. The way I want to use them is I want to use them as a roller. I will point my toe up, I will squeeze, and then I'll put my toe down. Oh, look at there. They said, that tickles. And then I'll start doing that on these turns to get the turn a little bit better. Ooh. So I'm going to thump, 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 around. Oh, she's going to say, I'll take off. You can't go faster than I can ride. As long as you don't fall down, we're good. I put my head through that loop. Now we might can go back to the little figure eights. While I'm doing these figure eights, I want you to think about a barn-soured horse. That's one that will not leave the barn. They want to stay at the barn. They don't want to go with the master. Now that barn may represent your house. It may years ago it represented my local tavern. I didn't want to leave the tavern. But we've all got something we don't want to leave. And we've got to understand, is this about us or is this about God? You know, barn sour means that they won't leave without a hissy fit. Every time he wants to pull its head down a little bit, I just give it a bump up. You know, this horse feels like that you just kind of pull instead of that little bump. And what I'm doing is I'm just squeezing with my leg to get it to bend in its ribs. And when it lowers its head, I just bump it back up. But in this process, I'm trying to get it to give its nose lighter. I want it to be lighter in the nose or in the mouth so that when we're just trail riding and I wiggle my reins, the head comes back up.
What would make a horse carry its head so low like that?
Don't you have an answer for that?
Maybe. I wanted to know what the original training of that was like. She trained was closer.
We don't know.
That would have been my guess, because they taught it.
Now, this horse isn't near good enough to mouth to have been professionally trained anything.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, some of your Mustangs, they will, boy, they're looking for scent on the ground. You know, your Mustangs are a lot more smelly than our conventional horses because Mustangs want to know whether there's a mountain lion or a bear. So they're going to follow the scent a lot more on the ground. I think for her it's just a habit to keep its owner from pulling on it. Because horses don't like to be pulled on. But these exercises, one thing leads to another. We're getting it a little softer in the face. We'll follow our direction. And we're getting it off of our leg so we can start making that circle bigger. That's a good exercise to teach these horses that don't know how to get off their leg. Is to just, Chris Cox calls it a wagon wheel. And then just get them to squeeze off of that. Now when you do that, I got to take this leg off. This leg will come off, my inside leg will squeeze, and the circle will get bigger. That's the beginning stages of getting one off your leg. The other one, I like to go ahead and put them on a fence and start squeezing right there, and get them to start crossing the front feet. You got to ride with both hands so you can keep them going the direction you want to go. I don't do it very long, and then I'll just pull their nose and squeeze with that leg, squeeze with that leg, keep the nose down, squeeze with that leg, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. What I'm trying to do is get this horse, if you'll watch its front feet, I want them to cross over each other. See how it keeps going? If you ever want a horse that's going to spin, they've got to learn to cross their front feet over. I'm not worried about its hips right now. I just want them front feet to learn to cross over. And in the process, we're getting nicer in the mouth because it's pulling on me and I'm saying, that ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. Thank you, thank you. And all at once, a horse that knew very little about leg pressure starting to side pass. But all of these things add together.
Just a minute ago, he was saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. And he was saying that for our benefit, that as he's releasing the pressure, he's saying thank you so that you know that he's done something.
I'm not talking to my horse, people. I do not talk to my horse. And here's the reason why. It would confuse the horse because I'm talking to you. The other reason why is horses don't know English unless you want to spend a lot of time teaching it to them. Now, I feel like I can learn horse language faster than I can teach him English. Because if I learn horse language, I can deal with any horse I've never met before. But if I teach my horse English, what am I going to do with everybody else's horse? And when I say horse language, what I'm talking about is just basic things, pressure and release. They learn by feel. You know, they don't get upset when you reward them at the right time. They don't get upset if I bump their nose, if I reward them when they do it. What they get upset is when you don't reward them. You just keep after them. And I'm not worried about it gapping its mouth open. That'll get over in time. You know, part of it is I'm exerting more pressure than it's ever felt before. If you hear it, get your finger on my mouth. I think Chris Cox is the only trainer that teaches this at his clinics. And I am a huge believer in it. We're kind and gentle to our horses, and I'm all for that. I don't do a lot of loving on them because you already know how to do that. That ain't something I got to teach you. Most of the time, my reward is I just leave them alone. You know, I personally, if I'm teaching a horse a new maneuver, and then when he does it, how many people go, oh, good boy, that was so good. Okay, the horse went from thinking about what he just accomplished to you saying good boy. You didn't give that horse time to connect the dots. Does that make sense? Remember, horses are a lot like men. They can only think about one thing at a time. When you teach a man something, don't say nothing else. Let him think about it. And horses are the same way. When you teach them something, just leave them alone and let them think about it. Then, if you want to rub them, that's fine. But as soon as you show them something, just leave them alone. Let them connect the dots in their mind about what just happened. You know, how did I get that spur to go away? How did I get him to quit pulling on my mouth? Let him think. But he can't be connecting the dots when you're, oh my goodness. Now, will they learn like that? Sure. But you're slowing down the process on some horses. So back to how can we be barn sour with God? We're is it God's asking us to go that we don't? Maybe we've got a friend that we're buddy sour with. And God's saying we need to change our friends. We need to separate from those friends. Isn't that what this is all about? It doesn't want to separate from its friend, but I'm telling it, no, I am your leader. I am more important than your friend. And that's what God's saying. You know, last week we talked, I don't remember exactly where the scripture was at. We had talked, Jesus said, I come to turn mother against daughter, father against son. You know, what was he saying? He's saying, you got to love me more than you love them. That's what he was saying. You got to follow me, not them. It's hard to follow two people at once. We got to choose who we're going to follow. In fact, that's what Jesus told when he was choosing the disciples. Follow me. You know, that's what we got to learn to do. Are we going to be buddy sour? Would we rather stay with our friends or follow Jesus? I won't mention any names, just don't want to embarrass anybody. I know somebody who used to go trail riding every weekend. And they told their friends, said, I am not trail riding during church or Wednesday night class. I have decided to follow Jesus. That's pretty cool. It went from being buddy sour to seeing who the true leader is. And that's what we're looking for. Oh, I'm beginning to like that. That's what I'm looking for. A lot of these slower horses, you kind of got to speed things up for them. It's a lot more stiff to the right than it is to the left. You know, while we're talking about this stiffness, the last Sunday of the month, 26th, I believe, we have a horse chiropractor coming that is going to do an adjustment during church on my horse. Oh, remember my neck popped up? Best adjustment I've had this week. But a lot of times these horses will be stiffer one way or another because of just being out of whack. I've never taken a horse to a chiropractor before, but I sure like to go. But sometimes they don't even get my neck to pop. But that's going to be the last Sunday of this month. Julie, somebody, remember her name? Westcott. Is that it? She'll be here the last Sunday of the month. Next Sunday, we've got a horse coming that when you get on it, it takes off. And then I believe the following Sunday will be Julie. Is my calendar right? If you want me to work one of your horses, it does not count unless you see me put it in my phone and give me the correct phone number. Because I like to touch base with people. Ah. The better you get this horse given its space right and left, the better you're going to be able to pick it up on the trail. And when you're going down the trail and you find a tree you want to go around, when you bend its nose, bump it. Just squeeze that leg. Say, come on, let's go down that tree. No, let's go down this tree over here. Bump that nose down. Come on, quit fighting it. Quit fighting it. Get soft. There you go. But these little bumps will get them lighter and lighter and lighter. A hyper horse, boy, it don't take hardly anything because they're very sensitive. Let's have good books.
I would like that. Me too.
You know, if you're a trail rider, the most important thing there is will he get on the trailer and will he stop? Really, that's all that matters. Will he go the direction I want him to go? But what happens is there's a few of us here old enough that we drove vehicles that didn't have power steering, and they weren't fun. It's a whole lot easier to go on a trail ride with something with power steering. Something that's saying, yes sir, what would you like? Now, to me, this is just a trick. Oh, if I keep my head here, you won't do it anymore. Oh, I don't know if you saw that or not, but I liked it a lot better to the left than to the right. What happened, once its head's turned, it don't want to, you kind of, oh, that was a lot better. Let's see if you can watch it this time. What I want is these horses to anticipate what I want. And when I pick up on that rein, oh, I like that. Got a little power steering going on here.
Do you think this horse could be flexed too much at some point? Or is this one of those that you couldn't flex enough?
That's a good question. And you hear a lot of these trainers will say you cannot flex a horse too much. Well, you can if you do it at the wrong time. Because what we've learned is any time a horse misbehaves, pull her head around. I have had probably, 3 or 4 or more horses that show up on a Sunday, and I get on them, and they do something wrong, and they just start flexing by themselves. Because they learn by what happens next. Oh, if I take a step, he's going to flex me. You know, they've learned a trick rather than a control. You know, I only do this so much before I start doing both of them and getting their head to go down. Now this one isn't ready yet, but we're going to try just a little bit here. And all I'm looking for is head to go down. I'm watching his ears. And it's just saying, I'm just going to argue with this a little bit. That's why I don't like couch potato horses. They're just going to argue with this a little bit. I'm not looking, my body is saying forward. My hands are saying, will you give me that pressure? I'm just holding steady. My body's saying, don't go backwards. I'm just, oh. As soon as it started down, there's got to be a release. But after I get my horses flexing, that's what I want. So when my horse, all at once, there's something on the trail that's got his attention, I can go like that instead of going, and he comes back to here. I don't want to have to be going down the trail, and every time another horse whinnies, I got to pull him around and stop him. All I'm trying to do is bring his mind back to me. Some of you may have to move because this place leaks in certain places.
It's not a bird dropping on your head.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was a bird dropping or rain dropping. But do you understand this principle? And, you know, I like to use this imaginary clock when I'm training horses. And straight in front of me is 12 noon. Now, since you're looking at the clock, over here would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But I want to be able to, somebody say a number, 1, 12 to 3, or 11, 10, or 9, and me be able to point this horse's head at that number. I want control of that face. I don't want a trick when I pick up on the rein it touches my leg. There's a difference between control and training. I personally want control. Do I want to train them to do stuff also? Absolutely. You know, I like a horse to think on itself. You know, when I was team roping, we only had about 5 or 6 seconds to rope a steer by the head and the back feet. I don't think fast enough if I got to tell my horse everything he's supposed to do. He's got to do it on his own, but I want a horse so well trained, if I pick him up and say, no, the barrier didn't work, he says, okay. I want my control to override his training. Does that make sense? Because that's where God is with us. He wants his control to override whatever we think we've been taught to do. You know, whether we're buddy soured, we've got somebody we don't want to leave, or we're barn sour, we got a particular place we don't want to leave, whatever it might be.
Splash zone.
Here, I'll get you. Now, all I did was, she got a little yield with me, so I'm just saying, "Oh, don't you do that with me. I'll get after you." You know, I'm a believer in waking horses up so we can calm them back down. If you never scare your horse, you'll never teach your horse to calm back down from being scared. I want to scare him on my terms, not his. Now, this isn't a very scary horse. There's very few things scare this horse, is there? You know, it's more about, is it going to listen to me or not? You know, it likes its life, I can tell you. I'm pretty sure she just likes being what she does and going on a trail ride because there's not a whole lot expected of her. But when I pick up on that nose, I'm going to expect something. This is really a nice mare. She's another one of them I could learn to like.
Me too.
But when I pick up on that nose, oh yeah, I like that. No leg at all. But the difference is going to be, if we want a horse that responds better, we got to quit pulling on him. Pulling will never get you more. It just gets you tired. But I want it to where when it forgot. And it's a reminder thing. Oh, that's what I like. I like for it to have power steer. If I go to ask for your nose, I want you to be thinking about giving it. Oh yeah. But you don't get that by pulling harder. When you pull harder, all you do is get them to resist more because you're pulling hard. But if you just take them little tiny bump. How many of you have felt like in your life God has done a few bumps on you? Like, going down the wrong road, bump, bump. Thinking about the wrong thing, bump, bump.
Bump hard.
Bump hard. Some of us are slow learners when it comes to God. You know, I like to, another good thing that I like to do for horses that's in training. Now, I may ride with one hand, but if I'm going to turn to the right, I'm going to turn with my right hand because I want to help them learn to start with their nose. How many of you, when you turn a horse to the right, his nose goes to the left? You turn him to the left, his nose goes to the right. You know, the exercises, you do these little exercises, and you teach them. If I start here, I do that and get its nose that way, and then I can help it come across. Now, I don't know nothing about neck ring, so I can kind of squeeze it with my foot right there and help it. Well, let's see what happens if I go crossways. See what happens? That's what you get. Where if I come across here and I got my right hand, that's what I get.
Is that because of the type of bit?
No, it's just what comes natural to the horse.
Okay, well you just said something earlier about that bit's designed for two hands. And I didn't know if that was just
Well,
more...
it's designed to only pull back on one rein at a time. But what happens, if we try to go this way, I'm actually pulling on the left rein more than I'm pulling on the right rein. That's what causes them to do that. You know, that's why in training, I always ride like this. I ride with my hands low, and I'm going to set this out again, and I'm waiting for her to drop her nose just a little bit. Now, if I worked with her more, I might jiggle my reins just a little. It's dropping its head a little bit, but it's still pulling on me. Oh, see how I can drop reins, but I've still got reins? That's big if you ride some of the idiots I ride. I don't want to just, oh, he did it right. No, no. But this way, I can measure real quick. One of the biggest problems I see people in their training is their reins are too long. They're up here trying to do like this. They're turning over here, and turning over here. The other day when TK was getting that horse's nose, her rein was so long that when she got the horse's nose, it was like this. And look where it throws me. Now, if a horse jumps, I'm going to fall off. And that's strictly because the rein is too long. Now, one of the things I said 5 years ago when I wanted to start horse ministry is I want to show things that you can do. I watched some Clint Anderson tapes yesterday that I can't do. I'm not that young and energetic anymore. So, you know, Clint Anderson's got a great following because he does A, B, C, D. My wife would make a great teacher for that. I don't care how you do it, I just want the nose to my side. Because I'm going to say, when you get in a storm, when I'm talking about a crisis on the trail, all at once you're riding along and a bobcat runs through the bushes, your horse jumps 10 feet high, you grab that rein and I want that horse to say, okay. I don't want it to scare that horse to death. And what I want, I'm going to pull that rein to here. Because it keeps me centered to where I can ride. If I pull it out to my knee and up here, it throws me off balance. It looks good on TV, but I'll never do it in the woods. If I get that rein, I'm coming right there. Because I can ride a horse that's jumping and bucking right there. Now, once again, I'm probably the only trainer that agrees with that. You follow whichever trainer you want, but I didn't grow up riding in an arena. I grew up riding in the Charlie Creek swamp. If you get bucked off, it's a long walk home. I don't like being bucked off. So we're going to go back now and just let her walk and see if she drops her nose and see if you can't just pick it up pretty lightly. Okay. My wife said there's a pretty good storm coming, so we might cut this a little bit short. Just make a circle or two here. But if you get the idea, if you do the bump from side to side, I guarantee you, if you watch a little bit, when their head starts going down, you can just bump it right up. I watch people in all the different ways they ride. And, it really just blows some people's minds. I don't ride for fun. I don't. If I'm riding with purpose. Riding has been my work all my life. It's a tool. Now you just pick it back up. The sooner, if you do it as she starts down, your timing will be better. A good example is if you have a horse that wants to eat grass while you're holding them. It's just a habit. It's not a good habit. You could break a finger. But I loop that around my finger. I close it tight. I kind of measure it off and I stick it in my pocket. Now if it wants to eat grass, it's going to get just about there and the bit's going to pick it back up. Now this helps because I'm 6'2". For you little short ladies, you're going to have to be pretty close to it. But I'm not going to stop it from eating grass. I'm not going to stop it from trying to eat grass. In fact, I will even put feed on the ground and let them try till they give up. Same thing. I'm just going to, you got freedom, but if you go to eat grass, it's going to stop and pick them back up. Very nice little horse. Quiet, gentle, easy going. stand still, wiggling, woggling all over them. I want to share a couple of Bible verses with you that kind of talks a little bit about that chatter that goes on in the back of our mind. I'm still debating on when I'm going to do a series. The very first series I ever did was How to Control Your Mind. But I want to share with you a few verses. One of them is in Isaiah 55:8. It says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways, our ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. So are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts your thoughts." You know, what he's saying is, God knows more than we do. How many of us can agree with that? God knows more than we do. God's ways are different than our ways. He knows what's ahead. His ways are higher than our ways. Even when it doesn't seem right, boy, God's ways will get you there faster. One that I really like is in 2 Corinthians 10:5. It says, "We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ." I want you to think about that a second. Where do your thoughts come from? I've even asked a group of preachers this question. I came up with an idea several years ago, and I believe thoughts can come from anything you've seen, heard, or done since you were born. I think something can happen to you before you're a year old, but it's stored in your brain and it can come back as a thought. A smell, a sound, all these things can trigger a thought. I also believe God can put thoughts in your head. I also believe Satan can put thoughts in your head. Are you recognizing Satan's thoughts? Wow. That's what it's talking about. Take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. You've got to understand when the enemy is after you, because he is a liar and a deceiver. He will sound just like the truth. That's why you have to know God's Word to tell if it is the truth or not. And in fact, a good friend of mine is a nuclear engineer. Can you believe that? A cowboy is friends with a nuclear engineer? I'm intrigued by his intelligence, and he's intrigued by my common sense. Because he said they don't have any in nuclear engineers. He said a guy made a mistake. It took him 45 seconds. Cost him $45 million to fix it. He said you do not use common sense in a nuclear plant. You do A, B, C. So he quite amazed me. I do nothing ABC. In Romans 12:1, it says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good and pleasing will." We're going to go ahead and pray so we can get out of here. Father God, we thank you that you can control our mind, and we give you the praise and the glory for your leadership. In Jesus' name, amen. I guess I was 3 minutes late. Now you're going to have to stay and talk to me. Thank you for coming next week. We'll be right here again.